Good morning, traders. Today is Tuesday, September 13th. My name is Charles, and this is the Pirate Traders live stream, a special CPI day live stream where the whole world is coming to an end. Woohoo! I'm, of course, just kidding. This right here, this liquidation break, absolutely cracks me up. It makes me giddy on the inside to see how silly everyone is. What's that? A bad CPI print? No one could have predicted that except for everyone who's been talking about it on TV all week long. Anyway, so what we have here in the overnight as a reaction to that CPI print is a liquidation break that got some new money selling. So that is bearish to see. Generally, when you get a liquidation break, what you want to see happen is it pulls down and then it immediately starts to drift right back up to wherever it broke from. In this case, what happened was it broke down, and when it tried to drift back up, new sellers came in and pushed it lower once again. So that right there is a little bit bearish to see. The new sellers are piling on. As far as what I'm expecting today, I would expect that the market is either going to go sideways today and just kind of absorb the excess created from this move that we just had, or we're going to get continuation lower. I will say the market did a nice job of repairing a lot of the weakness that we had left behind. So the second that we open down here, all this weakness is instantly repaired. We do still have a gap just below us, and the market might want to fill that gap. So the first areas that I'm kind of watching this market as an indication this morning as an indication for where the market wants to go is going to be this node of volume right here at 40.53. You could call it 40.55 really. That area right there is where I expect the market to find resistance. The first order of business will be a counter auction to the upside because so much of the overnight inventory is net short. And so I'll be looking for, once the market starts to push higher, where does it find resistance? If it finds it in that node right there, I'd be looking to head down and try to fill the gap we left behind on the 8th. So that would be targeting getting below the overnight low, then getting below the low from the 9th, and then heading down to fill that gap. Okay? Once that gap is filled, I'd be looking for support there. So it's pretty much like resistance here and support in here, and whichever one of those two breaks, I'd look for continuation in that direction, right? So if the market opens and it heads up here and gets resistance, let's head down to test the support. If the support breaks, we're looking for further downside continuation. Same thing the opposite direction. If the market trades lower, fills that gap, finds support there, and starts to head back up, we're looking to test this node up here and then see, can we break through? If so, we look for continuation higher. Spending a day just bouncing around inside a range wouldn't be unreasonable either, as we just created a lot of excess in the overnight. So sideways to lower is my prediction. But if it starts to recover and we start to push higher, I'll definitely get on momentum to the upside, because this was a liquidation break and it can be retraced very quickly. As far as zooming out and looking at the daily, we're also now dancing right on top of that 50 simple moving average on the daily. So if the market can find some support here and start to head higher today, it would make sense that 50 could act as support for the swing traders. Imagine if you missed your chance to get in here, you might now see this as the market being on sale, on discount, particularly if we fill that gap. That might be a nice sale price to get you some ES longs. So unfortunately, we just got to wait for the market to open and see what it do. If you have not yet, please consider smashing that thumbs up button. Really helps out the channel. Love to get to 50 likes before the opening bell. That'd be pretty cool. There it is, 50 likes. Thank you very much. Asmi says, I'm guessing we're bearish today. Like I said, I think the highest probability is either sideways or lower. But if the market can find support and start to head higher today, it could retrace back up into yesterday's range. That just, to me, is the least likely scenario. All right, the market's open. So again, we're looking for resistance around 40.55 and support at the high from 9.8, 40.11, and just kind of chop between the two with uncertainty. Okay, so we are getting that counter auction to the overnight inventory as expected. The overnight inventory being net short, we would expect some of those shorts to take profits, letting the market push its way higher. So now let's test this resistance around 55 and see, do we get slapped back down through the open, or can we work our way through this resistance? Andrew, what would validate a short from the 53 area? Do you mean invalidate? I would say breaking 60. Yeah, are you asking what would validate it or invalidate it? The validation is it found resistance. So you would expect it's going to find resistance there. If the question is where do you get out, where do you give up on it, I'm saying above 60. I'd give up on it. So how do you time it? Well, you really can't. It's a guess, right? The market just sold off. How many, like 100 points or whatever, it just sold off. I mean, this is a crazy moment. You can't know with any exactness what it's going to do. But you just look, where did it previously find support and resistance? And you assume it's going to find support or resistance there again. Okay, so passing back through the opening price now increases the odds that the market isn't ready to retrace this liquidation break just yet. And that, in my mind, slightly increases the odds that we may need to head down and fill the gap to 40.11. Looking for buyers there. If we didn't have the buyers here, we got to put the market on discount and get some bargain shoppers who will step in down here. So the first target to the downside is testing the overnight low at about 40.30. If we can push below there and find resistance, we're then looking to test the low from the 9th, just below at 40.26. Same thing, if we push below there, find resistance, we're looking to fill that gap down to 40.11. So I will get bearish if we push below the overnight low and find resistance there and new sellers start to pile on. OM says, I would have expected more short covering to take profits. When what should happens doesn't, my friend. When what should happens doesn't. The market's telling you there are new sellers. Okay, so that's resistance at the overnight low. So I am now bearish. As long as we remain below the halfback, which is at 40.40, I'm looking for continuation to try to fill the gap to 40.11. Okay, so now we're looking for this area around the opening price that was support for that first move up to become resistance. Slapping the market back down below the overnight low. All right, looks like I was early on my resistance at the overnight low call. I'm still bearish here, but I got to officially switch back to neutral as we didn't get resistance, and we're now back through the half back. But I suppose we still got some overnight traders that need to take profits first. All right, so here we go. Overnight got their chance to take profits. New sellers are piling on. This time I will wait for the confirmation of resistance at the overnight low before I change the banner again. Fool me once, shame on you. Don't get fooled twice. So same thing over here with the NQ. Looks like they pushed below the overnight low, and they actually found support inside that gap, which is interesting. So that, I mean, it has good taper. It could be a good low, but that increases the odds in my mind that they still need to head down to 12,380 to fill that gap that's left behind there. So if the NQ can push below 12,426, I would look for resistance there at the overnight low to get you down to fill that gap. And of course, ES, we're looking to get back below the overnight low, 40.30, and look for resistance there. It's also worth noting, looking over here at the advancers versus decliners, the ADSPD, which is the advancers versus decliners for just the ES stocks, the S&P stocks. Right now, it seems to be pegged at the moment at lower prices. Now, it doesn't have to stay like that all day. It can pick a direction and start to move. But generally, whenever I see the advancers versus decliners pegged down here at lower prices, meaning it just kind of goes sideways, that is a sign to sell every dip and buy back, sell every rip and buy back every dip, as the market will generally tend to trend lower if the advancers versus decliners are pegged at lower prices like that. So as we are testing halfback once again, testing the zero line on the ticks, do we keep those advancers versus decliners pegged at lower prices? Scooball, can the tick stay above the zero? Question mark. I don't think so. It feels like we're just waiting for the NQ to catch up to the zero line, and then they're both going to get smacked down. But of course, I'll have to wait and see. Jeremy Jones, does the NQ still have a gap? Yes, it does. That gap still needs to get filled, for sure. It seems very unusual to me that the good, strong hand buyers would have bought here. It's possible maybe they were layering in, and that was just the first test of those orders. But it would seem to me, if I was a swing trader trying to buy the Q, I'd want to wait and buy 12,380 rather than 12,400. So that increases the odds in my mind they still need to fill that gap, even if we are going to go sideways. Screwball, everyone who wanted to sell is old. Old business. There can be no new sellers. Oh, of course there can be new sellers. You don't think there's somebody who was buying over the last, couple of weeks who's sweating right now? Sweat is dripping from their brow. And they're saying to themselves, do I just take profit? They bought down here. And now they're hoping, man, can that 50 hold? If not, what do? I got to get out. And that's a new set of sellers, boop, to pop us lower. Never doubt the panic and fear. All right, so we're back below the overnight low once again, looking to test that for resistance and continuation lower from there. Mateus says the ES daily looks constructive, but the NQ broke the uptrend and held the downtrend. Ooh. Yeah, I would say they both just kind of look like they're coiling, right? They're just getting tighter and tighter. Round 3, testing the overnight low, looking for resistance. Will it work this time? There we go. All right. Well, the initial bounce to the downside is good enough to get me bearish here. So same as before, I'm bearish as long as we stay below the halfback at 40.40. Looking to try to fill that gap below. All right, so the NQ has now filled that gap. So that magnet is taken away from the market. They still have momentum to the downside, though, as they have the initial balance to the downside and the value area pushing right up against the low of the day. I would say the next major support for the NQ is right around the overnight from the 8th. So you're looking at around 12,320. That's your next major support for the Q. ES, of course, still trying to get that gap filled. Down to 40.11. Mark, 4,000 has decent liquidity according to Bookmap. I hope you can talk about Bookmap later today, like you said yesterday. Tomorrow I can. All right, well, that's twice now we've made good taper on the low. So that is, less bearish to see. It's a sign that those players are starting to layer in their orders here. They're looking to do business. So that increases the odds we will find support at the high from the 8th. The taper, of course, looks good, but there's only 79 contracts on the low. One little trick I've noticed, generally you have to have at least 100 contracts at the low. So even with the good taper, I assume we still need some more business down there. Fat Thor, gap on ETF or change chart to regular trading hours? I'm not sure what you mean. If you're talking about this gap up here, that's because this is the SPX. Ah, gotcha. Mark says, I'm confused about your 9-8 gap. Yeah, so if we zoom out here, this is the trading day from the 8th. This is the trading day from the 9th. The space in between them from here to here, where the overnight took us higher, that's called a gap. And gaps just have higher odds of getting backfilled, meaning the market does exactly what it's doing now. It comes back to test that previous high. And it's one of those sort of self-fulfilling prophecies where when you're close to filling a gap, you just kind of almost always do because so many people are expecting it to happen. So you got people shorting to try to get the gap to fill, and you got liquidity waiting, which is like a magnet tugging on the gap. I'm sorry, tugging on price. So it just increases the odds slightly. Giles, it's a great question. I keep the references where they were on the contract that was trading when we were here. Man, good taper on the low again. Those buyers are starting to dip their toe. MP, there's a naked VPOC at 4010. Well, even more reason to go down there and test that level out. Design knob. You were all warned. That is true. Design knob has warned us this was going to happen every day for the last few weeks. Chilling with Dylan. That's what I was just saying to Giles. I don't believe that to be true. I think the references, wherever they were, so if the reference is from the U contract level when it was created, so if you were on the U contract on 9/8, that level is always the target, even if the new contract is coming in. At least I find that to be the case. Mark, why do you keep those old levels? Like I said, it works from experience. It worked on the NQ, right? I was looking for the fill of that gap on the NQ. We got it. Right when we filled the gap is when we started to get support. And now when we head down and we touch 4111 and instantly the buyers step in there, then you'll know. For next time, you'll say to yourself, now I know. All right, so now we're looking for resistance once again at the overnight low right here at 40.30. So we're looking for these ticks to get smacked back down below the zero line. All right, heading back down to test this taper once again. All right, at this point, we'd have to assume this is not a larger player accumulating, but short-term traders trying to buy this exact support at 40.20 or 40.21, I guess. So once it breaks lower, we'll squeeze some of them, and that should get us that gap fill. They are doing an awfully good job defending, though. I'll give them credit for that. They're trying. I just don't think they recognize they're fixing to get squeezed once this support breaks. Scooball, what if sellers are weak too? Then I bet we find support at 40.10. Turn around and start heading back up. There's nothing the strong hands would love more than to squeeze some shorts. Charles, why isn't this support making you bullish? Normally, I'd assume if you keep seeing the market make good taper over and over and over again, every time it pushes down, you should be getting bullish. Why not? Well, folks, let me answer that question for you. Because of the advancers versus decliners. As long as these suckers remain pegged sideways like this, it tells me that every one of these rips is just a fake out. It's just a chance for more sellers to pile on. Al says, what is the market doing? What is the market trying to do? And how good of a job is it doing? Well, I would say the market is trying to fill the gap to 40.11, and it's doing an okay job of it. There is certainly two-sided trade. There is certainly some competition. But at the moment, the sellers are in control. Man, what a suspenseful moment to have to bail on you guys. All right, well, as we're about to print the C period here, I'm going to be saying sayonara to all the freeloaders. and going to hang out with the cool kids in the brigade. So as far as what I'm going to leave you with for the day, basically exactly what I said in the first 5 minutes this morning. I think the fact that we couldn't get above this node of resistance here meant we need to test. Let me just push this over a bit. The fact that we didn't get through this resistance up here means we need to test this support down here, which would be filling the gap. Once we fill that gap, once we get down to 40.11, anything can happen, right? The buyers can step in and we can head right back up, in which case we either go sideways for the day, or if we can get back above the A period high, we can start to try to fill the gap up to yesterday's low. Okay. But that to me is the least likely scenario. Either getting to fill the gap and then getting continuation lower, or just going sideways, to me seems like the highest probability. So I wish you all good luck. Trade safe and enjoy. We will see you all here tomorrow morning. Also, everyone will want to come and hang out tomorrow. I got an exciting announcement I'm going to be making. So you'll want to be here tomorrow morning at 9:20 a.m. See you then. Bye-bye.